Good evening. Welcome to the College of Arts and Sciences online information session for the Biological Sciences, hosted by Dr. Chris Cullis and Dr. Rich Drushel. I'm Lynn Marie Hamill from the Office of Undergraduate Studies, and I'll be taking your questions via email to be answered live on air. If you have a question, please send it to summerreghelp@case.edu with the subject line Info Session. If we do not answer your question live, we will follow up with you shortly via email. Now to your hosts, Dr. Cullis and Dr. Drushel.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good morning or good afternoon, depending on if you're in some other time zone. This webinar is to talk about the biological sciences, which really comprise three different types of degree programs. There's the degree in biology, there's the biochemistry degree, and then there are the nutrition or science degrees. Each of them obviously is different as you go through, but for many of them they are similar in terms of the requirements early on in your career here. So for the outline of the webinar, what we're going to do is to have a brief description of what the biological sciences are, and then what are the first year courses you need for the different types of degrees, and then move down for undergraduate research opportunities and an open forum for your questions. So the different degrees and programs are for biology, where you can do a BA and a BS, and we'll go into more details about the differences between these two different degrees, and a separate degree in systems biology, which is a fairly small cohort go through that, but if you're more interested in mathematics and computer program and bioinformatics, then one needs to think about that particular program. Biochemistry is outside of the College of Arts and Sciences and is centered in the medical school where the biochemistry department is, but that degree again has a biology basis, and many of the courses are taught by faculty in the biology department, and the biochemistry has some specific interesting courses. As you go through your program, I just have to stress that you can still take courses in nutrition, in the nutrition department, in the biochemistry department, the biology department, irrespective of what your degree program is. And so you're not limited by what courses you can take because of the particular program you're going to be in. As we go through again this webinar, you will see that the choice of a BS or a BA will change the opportunities that you have because there are more requirements in one than the other. In nutrition, there are two different programs, human nutrition and nutritional biochemistry and metabolism, and that in particular has a much more biochemical basis. We don't have lots of other programs that have specific names. So you get a BA or a BS in biology, you don't get one in neurobiology, you don't get one in ecology, you don't get one in molecular biology, but you can get concentrations of courses in those areas as you move through your career. So I think the next best thing to do now is to move on to the differences between a BA and a BS, for example, and I'll pass you over to Dr. Drushel.
Hello, and thanks again for your attention this evening. So all of the biological science degrees that we're going to talk about tonight, you can get either a Bachelor of Arts degree or a Bachelor of Science degree. And sometimes there's confusion as to what are the differences and similarities between those degrees. Under what conditions would I want to take one or the other? So on the slide here, we have a few just sort of general points about how BAs differ from BS. There are exceptions, but in general, the Bachelor of Arts degree, either in biology or in biochemistry or in nutrition, is a less specialized degree. It has fewer formal requirements, usually fewer credit hours overall, and more flexibility in choosing your upper-level electives in your major, and also making it easier to coexist with courses in a second major or another minor. So if you are, for instance, a double major or a varsity athlete or someone who's going to be very active in campus life, student activities, Greek life, if you're planning to do a semester of study abroad, all of those extra activities are easier to fit in an 8-semester schedule in general if you're doing a BA degree in the sciences rather than the BS. The BS degrees are typically more quantitative degrees, meaning that you'll either take more mathematics courses or higher level mathematics courses. They're usually more specific requirements for your major, additional credit hours compared to the BA. And most of the BS, well, all of the BS degree programs require some kind of undergraduate research. Typically at least one semester, but for instance in biology, 2 semesters of undergraduate research. So if you are interested in having research be part of your postgraduate career, a BS might, by the formal requirements, give you better preparation for that than the BA, but there's no reason why you can't go on to a career in research doing a BA degree if you make sure to take as electives under the BA undergraduate research that you would otherwise be required to do for the BS. Now, if you can't figure out which one you want to do, all is not lost, because for most of the biological sciences, the first 2 or 3 semesters have pretty much the same requirements for mathematics, for chemistry, and for biology. So you can, under ordinary circumstances, wait as late as the spring semester of your sophomore year to finally decide, do I want to do the BA in biology or the BS in biology? Or maybe even, do I want to do a degree in biochemistry or do I want to do it in biology? If you're still not sure at the time you have to sign up for classes, if there are specific differences in the BA versus BS degrees, you need to start on the BS curriculum because it's the more specific, the more, perhaps more difficult. And then later on, if you choose to fall back to the BA, your extra BS classes will fall back to the simpler BA requirements. But the reverse is not true. Just as a specific example, if you wish to do BS biochemistry, you're required to take engineering calculus your freshman year. But if you can't decide between BS or BA in biochemistry, you still need to take engineering calculus so that if you stay in BS biochemistry, you'll be able to use the calculus. If you took the non-engineering versions of calculus and then switched to BS biochemistry, you would be asked to repeat your calculus. All right? So if you can't make up your mind, do the harder stuff first. It's easier to fall back to the easier things. There are a lot of common course requirements for majors in all of the biological sciences, as seen on our slide here. Most of them require 2 or 3 semesters of biology classes with 1 or more semesters of laboratories in biology. They require 4 semesters of chemistry, typically 2 of inorganic chemistry, 2 of organic chemistry, with laboratories, at least 1 in each organic and inorganic. 2 semesters of physics with laboratories, and 2 semesters of mathematics. Now, there are some exceptions. Some of the BS degrees require 4 semesters of mathematics instead of 2. The BA in nutrition does not formally require any math courses, though you are required to take statistics courses. But just in general, this slide is a nice summary of how similar the preparation in biology, chemistry, physics, and math are for all of the undergraduate science degrees. And because of this overlap, that also means that, again, if you're not sure, do you want to do biology or biochemistry or nutrition, you have some wiggle room in this common curriculum before the first or second semester of your sophomore year. You have to finally make a decision and start to specialize. All of the biological science degrees give a really good preparation for not only graduate work in the field, presuming you're going to go on to become an independent researcher in the biological science, or if you're going on to a professional school. Many of our majors, biology, systems biology, biochemistry, nutrition, are pre-medical students, pre-dental students, pre-veterinary students, or even pre-law students who are interested in having their legal practice have some intersection with the biological science. All of the biological science programs have a really rigorous undergraduate curriculum. The common curriculum in the sciences that was on the previous slide, and then also rigor in the upper level electives. So all of this is good preparation for advanced work, whether as a graduate student doing research or a professional student in medicine or dentistry or veterinary medicine. You have a lot of opportunities to do original work to show that you are a self-starter and that you are interested enough in the world to bite off a piece of it for yourself and become the world's indoor expert about it. Opportunity to develop critical thinking skills. Core laboratory courses, core lecture courses in all of the sciences will give you examples of how to do this, and then in your upper level electives you can start to apply those to advanced studies, especially if you continue to do an undergraduate research project where, again, the object is for you to seize a piece of the universe and become the expert at it. There's also a lot of opportunity for professional contacts. If you're going to go to graduate school, if you're going to go to medical school or dental school, you're going to need to solicit letters of recommendation from faculty in the sciences. And the best way to get a good recommendation is to do some advanced work for one of those faculty, either in their class or as an undergraduate researcher, because they will have the opportunity to have closely supervised you, to have seen what your capabilities are, to assess your critical thinking skills, and give you a nice, very detailed, personalized recommendation about your capabilities. If you're interested in graduate work as a career, if you want to be a research scientist as part of your career, the single best thing you can do at the undergraduate level, regardless of BA or BS, whether it's an elective or required, is undergraduate research. So the next part of this talk is going to go briefly through the requirements for first-year students in the individual major programs. So we'll do biology, we'll do systems biology, then we'll do biochemistry, and then nutrition, and the two flavors of nutrition, human nutrition and nutritional biochemistry and metabolism. So we'll start with biology. So that's the slide that's currently up. Biology offers both a BA and a BS degree. And fortunately for you, you don't have to decide the difference between BA and BS until the spring semester of your sophomore year, because the first 3 semesters of the curriculum that you have to take for biology is exactly the same between BA and BS. And so your first semester here, you'll be doing a university seminar, you'll take first semester calculus, first semester inorganic chemistry, the first biology core course with its laboratory, and then phys ed. In the spring, you'll do a university seminar, second semester calculus, second semester inorganic chemistry with a semester of inorganic chem lab, and the second of the 3 core courses in biology with their lab, and then phys ed. If you want to do a BS program in one of the other sciences, or if you're interested in the BS in systems biology, which is on the next slide, you'll be doing a different sequence, especially one that asks that you take engineering versions of calculus versus the arts and sciences versions of calculus that are shown here. So next we have systems biology. Systems biology is a BS program. It's our newest undergraduate degree in biology. It's maybe not quite 10 years old yet. It has, as Dr. Cullis said in his opening remarks, a small number of students every year compared to the large demand for BA and lesser demand for BS. Systems biology is intended as a research degree, ultimately. You really shouldn't do systems biology unless you want to become a research scientist in doing the things that systems biologists do. How systems biology differs from the regular BS in biology. The regular BS in biology is to train someone who's going to be a research scientist in what an ordinary layman might think is a biology researcher, so an ecologist or a molecular biologist, someone who does field work or bench work in biology. Systems biology is not really about field or laboratory work. It's a computational approach to biology. There are many new problems in biology that are amenable best nowadays to the large amounts of computing power that are available to us. So a systems biology person is interested in building a complicated, understanding a complicated biological system by building a mathematical model of it. So if you are interested in how fish populations are regulated in Lake Erie, say you want to maximize the number of walleye so all the fishermen are happy, that's a systems biology problem, modeling that whole complicated ecosystem. If you're interested in how neural networks cause behavior so that you can build a biologically inspired robot that does that. That's a systems biology sort of problem. And so people who do systems biology typically come from a different place of interest than the ordinary biology student. They have strong quantitative skills, an interest in computer programming and mathematics, and not so much on doing field work or bench science. So to cater to that interest, we have a different program and a different first-year core curriculum for systems biology students. So like the regular BA and BS, they do 2 semesters of chemistry and 1 semester of chemistry lab, but they, in the spring semester, take computer programming, which is not required for the BA degree in biology at all, and a different version of computer programming is required later on in the curriculum for the BS in biology. Systems biology students take 2 semesters of engineering calculus instead of regular arts and sciences calculus. There's a special 2-semester core curriculum. Well, actually, this is actually a 4-semester core curriculum for systems biology, the first course of which you would not take until the spring semester of your freshman year, whereas the BA and BS students start right away in the fall. And then we have trying to get phys ed out of the way as a freshman, if at all possible. So the total number of credit hours is about the same, but there are significant differences in the kind of biology and the kind of calculus and the need for computer programming that you would have as a systems biology student. If you are a biochemistry student, biochemistry also offers BA and BS degrees. The BA and BS biochemistry are mostly the same as BA and BS biology, in that in your freshman year you do a first seminar and a university seminar, fall and spring. You do 2 semesters of calculus. You do 2 semesters of inorganic chemistry, 1 semester of lab. You do 2 biology core courses and 2 biology core labs. But if you are doing the BS in biochemistry, your math, like in systems biology BS, has to be the engineering versions of calculus, not the arts and sciences version. There's also shown here the option to do the engineering sequence in chemistry, Chem 111, Principles of Chemistry for Engineers, and Engineering 145, Chemistry of Materials. So already I should tell you a little bit that the ultimate aims of biochemistry, especially at the BS level, put you in a different research space than what you would be if you were an ordinary biology BA or BS student. Nutrition has BAs and BSs, but there are 2 large concentration areas in nutrition. One is human nutrition, which if you were interested in becoming a licensed dietitian, probably the BA in human nutrition would be the degree program that you would be interested in. However, there's also a study of nutritional biochemistry and metabolism, a more sort of biochemistry take on nutrition. So I guess this may be a gross simplification, and I apologize to my colleagues in nutrition for if this is an incorrect expression, but the human nutrition is more holistic, obviously needing metabolic and chemical and biochemical details, but maybe more intended towards someone who wants to practice nutrition on humans, whereas nutritional biochemistry and metabolism is a more research approach into things. How are metabolic pathways affected by diet? Why do some weight loss strategies work and not? What is the biochemical or molecular basis for that? However, for all of these, for each of these nutrition concentration areas, it is possible to take a sequence of courses that can lead to the licensure as a dietitian. It's called the Didactic Program in Dietetics, the DPD. As I said, my understanding is that usually people who are doing this are doing it through human nutrition, but the requirements of the DPD are compatible with any of the degrees in nutrition. So now here's a typical first-year schedule for BA and BS. It's mostly the same, except again, as in biochemistry, if you're doing the BS degree, engineering calculus is expected. If you're doing the BA degree, you only need to take the arts and sciences version of calculus. Nutrition has its own separate core curriculum courses that are listed as NTRN. And the entry point to nutrition is Nutrition 201, General Nutrition. The nutrition department gives you the option of whether you take that in the fall or in the spring, but in whatever semester you're not taking it, you need to take the 1 semester of the inorganic chemistry lab. It's preferred if you're going to be a nutrition major or nutritional biochemistry major that you take Nutrition 201 in the fall and then take Chem 113, the inorganic chemistry lab, in the spring. But like the biochemistry and biology BA and BS degrees, you're also taking the first 2 of the 3 biology core courses with their laboratories. So there's a bit more credit hours for nutrition BA and BS in the freshman year than for the other degrees. So it's especially important to take Nutrition 201 in the correct order. So here I guess I maybe can turn this back to Dr. Cullis. Many students are interested in undergraduate research, and there are a variety of opportunities for undergraduate research for students who are majoring in all of these levels. Dr. Cullis?
So undergraduate research is a cornerstone of what we think our degrees are and how we educate undergraduates. The department itself does not have enough faculty really to service all of the opportunities that might be needed for all of our majors. However, we're embedded in a huge biological sciences environment within University Circle, with the medical school and the basic science departments there, and they also, many of those faculty take undergraduates. If you work with a faculty member who's not a member of the department, you will have your departmental advisor as part of the group who oversees your undergraduate research. You can start early in this program, probably not in your first semester because there's a lot of other things to do, but you can start looking at opportunities even in the spring semester of your freshman year to start thinking about what you would like to do, who are doing research in areas that you'd like to work in, going and meeting them, talking with them, and maybe even volunteering in those labs, because there are opportunities to work full-time during the summer, and the sooner you start, the longer run you have at a research program. And by taking a couple of years of doing research, many of our undergraduates wind up being authors of refereed publications. And so it's you have a lot of opportunities, but you do actually have to go out and do a bit of work on your own to find an area that you're interested in. Some of the faculty who you have for courses will obviously introduce their research and maybe are a target for many of the early explorations that students take. So it's a really important part of what you do, and there are lots and lots of opportunities, and there's even obviously a whole department headed by Dr. Sheila Pedigo that oversees a lot of those research opportunities. Rich?
Okay. Well, the slide shows a variety of places where you can do undergraduate research. Obviously, you can start with the department that you are majoring in, but if your department has a lot of majors and not so many faculty, there's probably not a chance that every person who's a major in that department can land a spot in a lab for a faculty member that's in that department. However, you can go outside your home department. You can collaborate with, another of the, like say if you're in biology, you could work in biochemistry. If you were in biochemistry, you could do something in nutrition. There are some fruitful collaborations between biological sciences and the School of Engineering, especially at least in biology, for people who are interested in invertebrate locomotion and neural control of that. There are some very straightforward applications to robotics that have people in the mechanical engineering department very interested. You can work in a laboratory of someone who is faculty in the School of Medicine or the School of Dental Medicine or the School of Nursing. If you are interested in any of the pre-health professions, we're right in the middle of the University Hospital's campus. So you can work at UH. The Cleveland Clinic is just down the street from us. The Veterans Administration Hospital is a little bit over close to the Museum of Art there. There's also an Institute of Pathology that is right close to the University Hospital's campus. If you're not interested in, pre-med or pre-dent, but are just, interested in doing biological research, we have affiliation agreements and adjunct faculty with primary appointments at the Museum of Natural History here in Cleveland, at the Holden Arboretum, at the Cleveland Metro Park Zoo. So there are a lot of options. You don't have to think that, well, if I'm not going to med school, if I have to go to med school and I have to, do something about epidemiology of disease in order to have an undergraduate research project. That's not the case at all. You pretty much are free to follow your interests. There's some place on campus, either directly in one of your biological sciences departments or at one of our affiliated institutions, where there's somebody who's doing something that you're interested in, and there's probably a place for you to do some undergraduate research. In the Department of Biology, this is just some things that we do here in biology. We have faculty who are involved in these various areas. The neural basis of animal behavior, those are the people who are having some fruitful collaborations with mechanical engineering in the School of Engineering. There are faculty studying plant genetics. Dr. Cullis does that, and ecology of plants. There are developmental biologists and stem cell biologists. We have a large skeletal research center that's interested in stem cell biology. We have faculty studying molecular parasitology. The computational biology faculty are involved in systems biology. And there are faculty who are studying evolution and adaptations of various organisms to their environment. And those faculty are doing field work for plants and for animals. Now in biochemistry, biochemistry also has some interesting research areas. Their faculty are self-grouped into about 5 areas, as shown on the slide here. There are faculty who study proteins and enzymes. Enzymes are the catabolic machinery that make chemical reactions happen, that cause metabolism to work, enable you to ingest carbon skeletons as food and get energy out of them. There are people involved in structural biology who are trying to figure out the 3-dimensional structure of proteins. Sometimes this is by direct analysis, like X-ray crystallography. Some of this can also be computational biology, trying to figure out, in 3 dimensions, say, what the shape of a protein would be if all you have is its amino acid sequence. There are people who are studying how gene expression is regulated, what controls whether a gene is turned on or not off at a particular time. General cell biology, how cells of different tissues are able to function. And this is some interaction with nutrition, metabolic regulation. How does metabolism change under a variety of dietary or other stresses? This is sort of the end of our structured portion of the presentation. Here on this slide are how to get hold of people from the various departments that we have talked about if you want more information. You can write me for biology. Dr. Dave Samuels is the academic representative for biochemistry. Dr. James Swain represents nutrition, the human nutrition side. And Mary Beth Kavanaugh, who's also a licensed dietitian, is the contact for nutritional biochemistry and metabolism. And these names are all in your first year information guide on pages 75 to 77. So if there are other departments that we haven't talked about that you're interested in, you can look there to see who the contact person is for those. So at this point, Dr. Cullis and I are available to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Dr. Cullis and Dr. Drushel. We do have some questions coming in. I do want to remind students who are watching to send their questions to summerreghelp@case.edu. The first question we have is someone who does not need to take phys ed because she's a varsity athlete and wants to know, she wants to go to graduate school for biology research and wants to know if there's another science class she could take perhaps to get ahead on her requirements in her first year.
I think an answer to that is probably she doesn't want to do that in the first semester. She wants to have a look and see how the first semester pans out. It's a fairly heavy semester with the chemistry, biology, and mathematics that has to be taken, and then with the first seminar as well, you have a reasonably heavy schedule. The phys ed is a piece that's out there. And if she's doing something else, then she's still filling up that time. It's not as if that time isn't going to be used. So I think it's a good way to get yourself acclimatized, and if you really find you've got time on your hands, then I think you can start off by going around and looking at what are the research opportunities. And if you really some students have actually found a lab in their first semester and they've actually worked in a lab for 4 years. So I think that's what I would recommend, rather than trying to find another course to take that really is going to start to make the load pretty heavy.
Okay, we have another question. Would it be redundant to minor in biology and/or chemistry if you majored in biochemistry or nutritional biochem?
Well, I think that the answer is if you take a BS in biology, you only need one extra course to get a chemistry minor. So it's not actually redundant. So you can do that, and in fact, those ones are sufficiently have sufficient commonalities that in fact you can get that relatively easily. It depends on whether you want to use that extra 1 or 2 courses to get a minor in another subject, or whether you want to use those to eventually explore something else that you may not ever have a chance to explore subsequently. So
I will say one thing about piling up minors and majors. There's no credentialing advantage to having 2 majors over 1 or 3 minors over 2. High school is probably the last point in your life when you're going to get attaboys for doing 100 hard things all at the same time. You'll find when you come to college, there are not enough hours in the day to do everything all at once. So rather than wear yourself out trying to continue to do everything, you sort of need to triage your time and pick and choose where you spend your time. Now, if you're a biology major or a biochemistry major, it's really easy to get a chem minor, as Dr. Cullis said. You simply need to take 2nd semester OChem lab, and that will satisfy the requirements for the chem minor. If you are a biochemistry major or a nutritional biochemistry nutrition person, it's pretty easy to get a minor in biology just by taking the 3 biology core courses instead of just the 2. And there are probably upper-level electives in cell and molecular biology or other things that are appropriate that would give you the extra hours necessary for a minor. Minors are typically 15 or 16 credits, in a particular subject area. You have to decide why you are working for the credentials that you're trying to get up. As I said, just piling them up doesn't get you anywhere. A smart interviewer for med school or graduate school is going to ask you, why did you do all of that extra stuff? Now, if there is some reason why taking courses in multiple areas, enough of them to get a formal credential, a minor or a major in them, is the best thing for you, the best preparation for you to go to the next step after college and do what you want, then that's the right answer for you. But it's never the right answer just to do a lot of hard stuff because it's there. Sleep is not overrated.
Okay, thanks. We have a question from Susie, who's interested in being a pharmacist and wants to know if having biology as a major is a good fit for pharmacy school.
Either biology or biochemistry, really any of our majors in the biological sciences will give you the necessary fundamentals in biology and chemistry and physics and math for those. It probably would be easier if you were a biochemistry student because the upper level courses in biochemistry that you would take in your junior year for a biochemistry major are things that would be required by that major. If you're a biology major and you take 2 biochemistry courses in your junior year, Biochem 307 and 308, only one of those would actually satisfy an elective requirement for biology. So there are a lot of ways to satisfy the requirements that you would need for pharmacy school, but certainly, an emphasis in biochemistry and taking the 2 upper-level courses in biochemistry, Biochem 307 and 308, would be very good for pharmacy school.
I think the other point to make is that as you go through, the electives that you choose outside of the actual requirements are the ones that are really going to influence where you want to go and how and what things you need, what are required for you to get there. So it's not just this is the degree I've got. All of the degrees will credential you to apply to pharmacy school. I think the question is what else have you done that has prepared you better so that you'll succeed there? And that's a choice of electives that you'll work out with your advisor as you go through your years at Case Western Reserve.
Thanks. We talked a little bit about minors. Now we have a bunch of questions coming in about how difficult it would be to double major in biology and a foreign language. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Okay. First of all, the standard advice that I've heard from everyone who does freshman advising is that double majors are something you shouldn't do. You should major in one thing and then pick and choose electives at, whatever other courses you need to take to add up to what you want to do. But many of our students are interested in double majors. I would say that for biology, I don't know the specific numbers for the other biological science departments, but in biology, 50% of our BA students who are declared as a BA biology are also declared as some other BA degree. And 1/4 of our BS students in biology are doing a dual degree BS, which means that they're working on some other declared BS degree. So even though we wish students wouldn't work harder than they have to, there are a lot of students doing double majors. The BA degrees are definitely easier to make that happen in, as I said when I was talking about the differences between BAs and BSs. They have fewer hours, fewer formal requirements, more flexibility in picking up those extra required courses for your other major. The standard advice for someone who is, well, I guess you would have to decide, what do you want your primary major to be? Are you more interested in majoring in biology and then doing the foreign language as you can? Or are you really interested in majoring in the foreign language and doing biology, either on the side or enough biology for, say if you're a pre-medical or a pre-dental student? If you are primarily a humanities major or a foreign languages major but interested in biology, we would recommend that in your first year you take major courses in your foreign language, but make sure that you take the necessary calculus and inorganic chemistry so that when you get to your sophomore year, you'll finish OChem, you'll start OChem like everyone else who was a biology major as a freshman, but then you'll come back around and take the 2 biology core course sequences as a sophomore that everyone else who was just a plain biology major would have taken in their freshman year. So if you're thinking about multiple majors, you really, insofar as possible, need to take courses in that major in your freshman year, especially if a humanities major is your main major. You can finish the biology major requirements in 6 of the 8 semesters of your undergraduate career. Whether you do the first 6 semesters that you're here and then do your other major in the last 2, or whether you start your second major in the first 2 and finish up in the final 6 is really up to you, and something you should think about for your own priorities and something to discuss with your major advisor.
I think one of the other issues that often comes up with a foreign language is, do you want to spend some time in that country where that language is spoken as the major language? And if you do, then you're obviously looking at a semester or a year abroad, and then you need to make sure you get those requirements out of the way. And I think at that stage, you really, at your outset, you want to make sure that you talk to your advisor as soon as you get here to plan out an 8-semester schedule. What can you do? And I think this is advice that we try to give our faculty when they meet with students. It's not, what am I going to do in the next semester? It's, how do I plan out my 8 semesters here, and what is the best way of working through with it, and to be able to get the experiences that I want. And so when you start out, yes, if you want a double major, what Dr. Drushel said, make a decision as to which of them you're most interested at this moment in time in completing, and start the courses there. But once you get here and you've declared that major, talk with your advisor, find out what are the requirements and how you can fit them in. And if you can fit in the 2 majors without overstretching yourself, or you want to fit them in because you really do want to do a major in Spanish because you want to actually go to Spain or to South America to do a semester, a year abroad, then that's a really good reason for doing that.
Okay, we have a student who emailed in saying she noticed a lot of biochemistry courses are also named as biology classes, especially in the 300 to 400 level. If you wanted to double major in biochem and biology, would those 300 to 400 level courses count in both degrees?
Yes, they will, up to a certain amount. Pretty much if a course has a cross list, so being listed under 2 departments is what we call being cross-listed. If the course is cross-listed in multiple departments, you should be able to use it just a priori for either of those majors. We usually ask if you're only majoring in one thing, even though the registration system can keep track of it, we ask that you register for it in whatever the department is that you're majoring in. So if you were a biochem major and you were taking the second semester biochemistry elective in protein cells and proteins, it's Biochem 308. That also has a Biology 308 cross list. You should probably take it as Biochem 308 since you're a biochem major. If you're a biology major, though, you should take it as Biology 308. If you are a double major in biology and biochemistry, then it really doesn't matter. There are some limits that I would defer to Dean Hamill or others in undergraduate studies about how many courses you can double count in between departments, but so far as I have experienced, no student has gotten anywhere close to what those limits are.
Right, I do want to say what Rich said, and Dr. Drushel said, that there is really not a lot of limits of the double counting between courses. But we do have another question from Daniel, who is going to be a biology major and if he decides not to use any of his science AP credits in order to attain better grades, will med schools look down on that? And what do you think of that just in general in the biology major?
So in the biology major, we don't take AP credit to get out of any of the required core courses. And so, but you do get credit towards graduation for the biological sciences AP credit part of that. So it's not a concern from that point of view. Overall, AP credit and what you're going to do, if you have a number of those, helps you because it goes towards counting for the number of courses you need to graduate, and therefore it gives you more flexibility if you do want to double major, or more specifically if you want to spend a significant time abroad. It's much easier to get courses while you're abroad to count for electives than it does towards your actual major courses, and so it's nicer if you have those AP credits, you can get your requirements completed before you do your semester or year abroad, and therefore those credits are really very useful. But as far as specifically the biology AP credits are concerned, you still have to take the 3 biology core courses because we're trying to integrate those into a whole so that we have some kind of connection between all 3.
So we have a student who wants to know which would be more recommendable from med school, a BS or a BA in biology?
This is a common question. Even though the BS degree is harder, has more hours, more requirements, well, harder in quotation marks, there is no credentialing advantage to a BA or BS degree, from CWRU as far as admission to medical school, dental school, professional school. Both degrees are equally rigorous, so you should do whichever one you're most interested in or whichever one is best aligned with what your post-graduation plans are. If research is going to be part of your career, if you're interested in an MD, PhD program, you might want to consider one of the BS degrees because they have research built in. The extra stuff you're doing for the BS is not just because it's harder, but because if you're going to be a scientist, this is stuff that will be useful for you when you actually get to be a scientist.
Can you please elaborate on the process of obtaining a teaching certificate in biology?
Oh, wow.
I think, so the teaching certificate in biology is done as a joint program with John Carroll University. And so you still have to do your degree courses, but the education courses specifically are done off campus from here. I'm afraid right off the top of my head, Dean Hamill might know who the person for the teaching licensure is for biology, but there is a specific individual who is responsible for advising under those circumstances. So you can do it, but we don't actually do the education courses at Case Western Reserve.
If you look in the university's online bulletin, so bulletin.case.edu, and go to the biology entry there, There is a complete listing of all the courses that you would need to take here at CWRU as part of the licensure program, so including the courses that are in biology.
We have another question about chemistry. Would Chem 111 be a suitable replacement for Chem 105 when double majoring?
Rich?
I guess it depends on what you mean by double majoring. So if you are an engineering student, a dual degree student, so a BS in engineering and a BA or BS in biology, then the chemistry department has determined that the sequence of Chem 111 and Engineering 145, those two courses together, would be logically equivalent to the Chem 105-106 that is the ordinary chemistry sequence. So if you are, say, a biomedical engineering student and you have to take Chem 111, Engineering 145, and then subsequently decide to switch to biology, well, we would accept the Chem 111, Engineering 145 in lieu of Chem 105-106, but we would still make you take the freshman chem lab, Chem 113. Note that while the sum of the two courses, Chem 111, Engineering 145, or Chem 105-106 are equivalent, the courses don't break their material or distribute their material across the two courses together. So my colleagues in chemistry, Dr. Mike Kenny says, if you take Chem 111, even if you decide to do biology or chemistry later, finish out the engineering sequence in inorganic chemistry. Otherwise, you'll be missing some content.
Okay, we have another pre-med student with past research experience who is wondering how they would go about finding a research job in their first semester. Would going to the source office be the best, approaching a PI, and do faculty take first-year students for research?
So I think the answer to that is they've got a pretty good handle on where they want to go. So yes, I think you want to go to the source office, you want to go because they will give you the names of the people who accept undergraduates in their lab and what their interests are. You can then go through that, find somebody or a group of PIs who do things that you're interested in doing or are related to what you've already done, and send them an email and go and talk to them, go and see the people in the lab. And I certainly have had undergraduates who have come into my lab in their first semester because that's what they had some experience and they knew that's what they wanted to do. And if you get somebody like that who turns out well, you actually, as I say, can wind up working 3 summers and 4 years in that lab and be, at least a master's student level, if not close to a PhD student level in research by the time you get out of here. It's a major way to go. And if you have done research and know that you like to do it, then that's one way. I would also suggest that you don't necessarily restrict yourself just to the area where you've already got some experience, because that way you may miss something that you actually enjoy more because you haven't spread your horizons wide enough.
Okay, we're getting a few questions in about AP scores and AP credit again, so maybe we can revisit this topic for a minute. Can you discuss how AP credit works for the biology majors, maybe in relation to the AP bio course, which is different than the AP credit that you could get for math and chemistry?
So yes, so the AP, we made a decision a couple of years ago that because of the way in which we're wanting to construct the sequence of our introductory core courses, AP credit doesn't really match any one of those courses. So the AP credit goes towards Biology 200, which is part of your requirements for the hours for your biology major, but does not substitute for any of the core courses. So irrespective of your AP results, you still have to do all 3 core courses, Biology 214, 215, and 216, and their associated laboratories for a biology major. So that's the way that works.
So I'll just add the specifics, in case the students with the questions, are wondering about particular scores. If you receive a 4 on the AP biology exam, that is worth 3 credits of Biology 114, which is our non-majors introductory biology course. That's 3 credits towards the 120 odd you need for graduation, but it does not count towards any biology major or minor. If you receive a 5 on the AP biology exam, or whatever the equivalent score for the International Baccalaureate is, you'll receive 3 credits of 200 level biology that may be used towards any biology degree or the biology minor. But as Dr. Cullis said, it no longer replaces the first core curriculum course, Biology 214 and Biology 214L, which previously it did.
So we have a student who is torn between a biomedical engineering degree and a biology degree. What courses would you recommend that they take if that's the case? And if they change their mind, how easy it to change from BME to biology?
So I think that if they're torn between those 2 degrees, they really have to make some decision as to what it is that they want to do. So biomedical engineering and biology are not equivalents in that sense. They really are very different kinds of degrees. Biomedical engineering is an engineering degree, focuses much more on engineering and devices than it does on the biology as such. And so it's somewhat different. We certainly have a number of students who start off as biomedical engineering majors who then transfer and become biology majors. I think it's much more difficult to go in the opposite direction, partly because of the requirements of the engineering core, and because biomedical engineering is actually an engineering degree. You have to sort of get the engineering core out of the way, and if you don't start doing it in your first semester, then it makes it much more difficult to catch up. So if they really are conflicted or uncertain as to which way they want to go, probably the best idea is to go and do the biomedical engineering requirements to start with, because they transfer more easily into a biology major than trying to move in the opposite direction.
So I'll just say this as somebody who, over the course of my academic and professional career has, been a hobbyist and experimenter. I've taught autonomous robotics. I taught a Lego robots course for 19 semesters with some colleagues in biology and computer engineering. I've always tinkered with stuff. So I have a lot of skills that don't come from having gone to school as an engineer. But my sense of engineering, my personal sense, is that engineering is about making useful devices in the physical world to do stuff that people want to get done. And to do that, you need to know a lot about the physical sciences, you need to know a lot about math, and you have to be willing to understand the computational background for how things work. So if you're not interested in those things, if you don't like building stuff, if you're not interested in math or find that you're not very good at it, then engineering is going to be a cognitive disconnect for you. Biology is open to things from engineering, but the end result is different. The aim is different. So each of the majors in the biological sciences and in the engineering, like biomedical engineering or the other engineering disciplines, all of these are different ways to look at some part of the universe. And they may end up converging on the same point, just starting from a different vantage point. They may be looking at completely different things. But as Dr. Cullis said, if you really can't decide between BME and biology or biochemistry, you need to do BME until you are convinced that you don't want to do it. Otherwise, you'll find yourself a whole year behind.
So you talked a little bit about the differences between a BA and a BS, and the BS requiring research. We have a student who wants to know, can you do research without doing the BS degree?
You can certainly do research as an elective, yes, and many of our BA students do. One of the ways in which they wind up doing research is actually as their capstone. And so you need to have done research at that level. From my own point of view as a faculty member who has undergraduates in the lab, it's much better to do research for a longer than for a shorter time. So the BS requires 2 semesters of research. If you're going to do research, my recommendation always would be to try to fit it in so you're doing at least 2 semesters. And in fact, frequently I think you do 3 semesters, because your first research experience usually isn't one for credit. It's either going to be a summer program or you're going to be volunteering in a lab, working out whether this is somewhere where you want to spend, a lot of hours over the next year. And I think it's very good to do it that way round. Faculty also appreciate that because it takes us a lot of time with you when you're learning to do research. And without knowing both your interest and your aptitude, and both of those two things are important, it takes a lot of our time to make a decision that this is something that neither of us should really pursue for a longer period of time. If you're doing it for credit, you don't get to be able to drop out of it very easily because you're already locked in for a significant period of time. So I would say that's it. But no, there is no bar, and as I say, BA students do their capstone experience as a research experience, and many of the BA students, because of the fact that the program is less rigorous, may find they actually have more time to do research than the BS students might.
Thanks. We have a question from someone who seems to have a lot of AP credit. If they have their 2 semesters of math done already and they have their 2 semesters of chem done, besides organic chemistry, what other course would you suggest in their first semester?
Well, I guess that depends on what part of the biological sciences you were interested in, or if you were interested in pursuing, some other non-biological type of major, if you were interested in a language or one of the humanities. I would say if you were interested in humanities as another major or a significant minor, I would jump into taking the courses in the humanities. I presume that you would be interested in one of the biological sciences degrees that's going to require the biology core curriculum. So I would be sure to put that in there as well. But if you've got extra time due to AP credit, especially if it's stuff that you can use towards graduation, but it wasn't what you were going to major in, then that's an opportunity. That's a space that you can use to explore, and maybe to do something that you wouldn't have had a chance to do otherwise.
I think under those circumstances, I'd refer to the previous question, in fact, that I certainly had an advisee who came in with a very large number of AP credits, and he wound up doing research all the way through his undergraduate career and spent a year abroad in Spain because he also was doing Spanish. And that, I think, if you do have that, it gives you options to pursue lots of different things. And so that's not a bad thing at all. It really does give you freedom to choose.
Well, I think we're just about out of time, so I appreciate all the responses and the questions that we have. We got a lot of questions that we weren't able to get to, so we will respond via email to those questions. If for some reason you did send it to the comments screen, please resend your questions to summerreghelp@case.edu so we can respond to them over the next few days. So now I just want to open it up to Dr. Drushel and Dr. Cullis for any final comments they may have for us this evening.
Well, I'll just say briefly that this is a scary time, but don't worry. And as my little final fun slide here, my quote from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, don't panic, in large friendly letters. There are people here to help you. There are a boatload of people in the same position as you with the same questions. There have been, there will continue to be. There's lots of help available. Ask the deans. And to go to the previous slide, ask appropriate people in the different departments and be flexible. Be prepared to make a misstep. Be prepared to change your mind. Be prepared for something you can't even think of right now to take you in a completely different direction that ends up being the best place that you could have been.
I think I would add to that is just keep asking questions, because I think that's the only way you're going to find out what the answer is. And that's the important part about this. There's lots of resources, there's lots of people to ask, and you can find all of that information in the guides. I think that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cullis and Dr. Drushel. And just a programming note, we will have a few more online information sessions this week. Tomorrow we'll have Arts and Sciences discussing the humanities. On the following day, we'll be discussing the performing arts. And this is really a good one for people who have really been involved in ensembles and musical theater and looking for a way to keep those interests going once they're on campus. After that, on the 28th, we will be having the K School of Engineering discussing civil, electrical, computer science, and mechanical and aerospace engineering. And on July 10th, Dean Mason and I will be back to talk about last-minute registration questions that you may have. So again, thank you this evening for joining us, and we hope to see you soon. Good night.